Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, good evening, and, well, I return to this channel after a decent period of time. Last time you had heard me, we were operating and covering the Ford Legends League, whereas this time we're doing something just a little bit quicker and something that has a little more downforce, with a sprinkle of grip on top of that as well, and that is the lovely Formula 4s. Now today we are at the Circuito de Navarra, in the lovely country of Spain. Meant to be all cloudy Spain, but however today, as you can see from the weather in the top right corner there, it's partly cloudy, 8 kilometers an hour wind, a 47% chance of rain with a 22 degrees temperature around the track. However, it does say that track temp is 24 at the minute, so 2 degrees difference there. And obviously, like I say, we are in Spain. This is the medium circuit, and we do have a track length of 2.62 kilometers. As you can see, a few interesting turns there, some that are going to be flat out, others you really do need to slow up for, and it's going to make it interesting with the slight elevation differences in terms of getting the power down on the exits of these corners to get those cars going as quick as possible and to maintain your quick pace around here. Now, nonetheless, we're going to jump straight into it because we are into the qualifying session, and let's go through some of the colours then to help you understand what is going on exactly in the top left corner. And well, let's start from the top then. So Dan Mori, as you can see, there is a yellowy gold tinge to that number, and this is their classes. So we have 2 classes currently in this race. That may change as we go into round 2, possibly 3, as there may be tweaks and updates as we go along. I will obviously, if we have any of those, I will notify you at the start of each broadcast we have here with the Formula 4s. But as it stands at the moment, we have 2 classes, one being gold and one silver. So Dan Mori representing the gold group there, going quickest as well at the moment. Let's get Mr. Mori up on screen. There he is, Altitude Esports livery there. And as you can see, the number does go green. Now, the green colour obviously means one thing and one thing only. That is the driver we are focused on. So as you can see at the minute, Mr. Mori is on your screens, hence the number is green for him for P1. Now let's have a little look further down the... In fact, no, we won't have a look further down the grid, because all the silvers are currently in the pits. Let's look at Nigel Stock, for example. Currently sitting in the pits, however, he is part of the silver group, so you'll see here P4 and P5 also have the silvery tinge to it. We might actually change up the colours, to be fair, for the silver group, because obviously it does blend in a little bit, but we'll see. We'll get back to you on those ones, but those are the 2 classes we have this evening for this race. Now, obviously, we are into the qualifying here this evening. Broadcast is a little delayed. This race did actually happen on the Friday, and I'm now playing catch-up basically with myself. And it should have been yesterday as well, in fact, that we were covering this. Unfortunately, we did not get underway because with technical issue after technical issue last night, it got to the point where it got a little too late to sort anything out, and luckily we seem to be back on track today. So we will be bringing you some lovely F4 racing here this evening, and you can catch the races on Fridays, and you can also come take part as well. I believe, I think the entries are still open for this season as well. So if you want to, if you didn't know about this season and you're only just finding it via this broadcast, then please do jump in the car, give it a whirl, and see if you enjoy it. I can tell you this, the racing will be close. Look at the timing tower. Everyone very, very close indeed. As you can see there, that is the time that splits the cars. So a 10th behind each other for the top 3. And then the gaps really do come down there from Reece Saunders, sorry, all the way down to P11. And, oh, there's a bit of a spin there in the background. It's the 2 Altitude Esports cars going nose to tail. Car number 4 and car number 8. Just to help with things there as well. In fact, what we'll do is we'll move that up for you. So we'll bring the car number next to the names there so you can picture who is who, and as you can see here, Dan Morey, is car number 4. So he is the car tailing the number 8 vehicle there. That is Rhys Saunders just in front. I apologise if there is any butchering of any names. Rhys has just pushed up into P3, so sitting on that bottom podium spot at the moment. As you can see, when I said earlier this broadcast at the very start about some corners being absolutely flat out, you can see Dan there keeping the pedal all the way down and flew by the number 8 on the inside line. Now, the setup for this evening is obviously we will have a what I like to call, we're taking like an F1 approach, for example. So obviously we're doing the qualifying now. There'll be like a sprint race, and then after that there'll be a 50-minute race, which is borderline endurance in my opinion. I'd say anything around an hour is an endurance, especially in these cars, which are made for, I would say, shorter races, that's for sure. However, we are going to obviously have a long time for these guys to get around the circuit and really take the fight to each other. And what we'll do is we'll show you at the top there. There is the quickest time for the gold class and the quickest time for the silver class. As you can see, not much in it whatsoever. Now, if you look at the timing tower on the left-hand side, you will see that more or less everyone is in order for their classes. Obviously, the odd one out being Glenn at the moment. But I think that time probably will pick itself up. Eventually, it may take a few laps just to heat those tyres up. But you can see all the gold in one and all the silvers in one group as well. But this racing will be tight between these cars. As you can see, Isaac Doble and Alex Meredith doing the same time there as well. Here is Mr. Doble, car number 65. And there will be different liveries and different aspects to these cars that will be noticeable throughout the season. Same as our Ford Legends League that we covered a while back as well. As the season went on, there were liveries you got used to and numbers you got used to. And it will be the same cause in this one as well. As we tuck in to the last couple of minutes now. Can Isaac Doble try and push his way a little bit higher up the field? Try and get an early push on for that podium spot. I could hear her spinning in the background. Potentially one of the cars that are in the pits now was the one that's spinning. This is the only downfall. I do not have access to any replays, so as you see it live, that is the only way to see it, unfortunately. So it'll be a bit like a Sky Sports Plus broadcast, where you don't really see any replays. It's kind of just fixated on the live action, and that's your lot. That's basically the aim here tonight, and that's what we will be delivering. However, I can assure you of this: when the future races that are coming up, we will have all access to the replays, and we'll bring you some extra information and details on the cars and the circuits ahead of the racing. Obviously, don't forget, if you want to take part, do get involved. You can do so by jumping into the NXTGEN Discord, and I'm sure there'll be links underneath this broadcast so you can find your way to, and through the NXTGEN profiles as well. And don't forget, you can easily get involved with this. Reach out to anyone in there. Everyone's all friendly, and you can get involved in all the racing here yet to come. Now let's bring you your grid then. So here is your grid for this race. Dan Morey leads the way, Rhys Saunders P2, Mikael Andreasen P3, Isaac Doble P4, James Parker P5, Lee Holmes P6, and we've got Robert, I'm not going to pronounce the surname because I may butcher it, so rather than cause offence, P7 for Robert there, Jason Landry in P8, Alex Meredith P9, Shay Piggott in P10, and we've got Nigel Stock P11, Ian Craigle in P12. And as the grid scrolls on, we do have Alistair Hatcher in P13, Daniel Fritz P14, Glenn Humberstone in P15, and Jamie Dory P16. Let's head over to your grid. As you can see, the cars are starting to line up there. Pit lane's empty. We'd have a little check And this is the view from the gyro cam. In fact, let's give you a little cockpit view. As you can see Barney there in the top right corner in his glass box, looking a bit like the Pope, I have to say. In his lovely luxury box there, you can see the safety car just tucked up into the pits. I think we're just waiting on the last few cars to jump onto the grid. And once we have those cars, we will be off and underway this evening for our first race. As we just wait for the last couple of cars now. You can hear the cars starting to rev up. And we are off and underway. And it's a great start there for Mr. Morey, who's already a 10.5 ahead of that car number 8, Reese Saunders there. But Reese keeping a nice inside line, blocking off any attacks from the rear, so these two can focus on pushing up the field. And wide there for Dan Morey, car number 4, that's gone extremely wide on that exit there, but he's lucky really with the way the track falls. He's got the inside line once again, and he finds himself back out in front. But maybe early tremors from Dan Morey. It's going to be too early to tell really. We're only 30 seconds into the race, so anything could happen from here as these cars come bouncing over the straights there. You can see Lee Holmes getting in amongst the action as well. Same with James Parker, who's just moved up a position or two. Nice little livery there for Mr. Parker. We've got Robert just in behind, car number 80. A wonderful profile picture there for Mr. Robert, as these guys come around. And that is one lap, ladies and gentlemen. So it is literally just around a minute a lap. So we're going to have quite a few laps here this evening. As we see the 35 now going side by side. Lee Holmes, that is on the inside there of the 119 car. And that is Alex Meredith, who's just had to surrender that position. Not really worth sticking your nose up this early. Still very early on in the race. You don't want to risk too much as these cars do go side by side once more. 119 having a slight inside advantage there, but will find himself on the outside of the next turn. So this is how quickly it does change. On the inside 1 second, on the outside the next. And you can see the track map there in the top right corner. And that track map will show you exactly whereabouts these cars are on the circuit. As once more, James Parker goes side by side, and Robert does get the move done at the moment. He has that nose in front. Is he going to be able to maintain it heading into the first turn? If he keeps it flat around the outside, there's a chance that the number 20, James Parker, won't keep it locked in. And I think he's just let off ever so slightly. Again, it's about these risky moves. Inside lock-up there for Lee Holmes, and there's a spin there for the number 80. That's Robert that's gone around, and unfortunately there's a big cluster here now towards the back. There's several cars off, and Daniel Fritz luckily makes it through, but Lee Holmes and Shane Piggott involved there big time, and Ian Craigle coming around P15 at the moment. The 1-2-4 car there. Luckily didn't get caught up in any of that, but it looks like Jason Landry did. As you can see, that front wing badly damaged, and that front left wheel badly cambered as well. And oh, there goes the wing for Lee Holmes. So Lee definitely going to be making a pit stop. And in fact, look at the rear wheel there now for Jason. That machine is really crabbing into the pit lane. So we've got 4 cars into the pits this time around. We don't have Jamie Dory on the circuit at the moment. You can see, let's have a little look at number 80 then, Robert here. Now, here's the issue with Robert's car. Let's see if we can get a decent view of it. I don't think we're going to be able to, unfortunately. Can't quite see the ring. The wing, sorry. Can't quite see the wing on the front with a close-up camera. However, you can from this view here. You can see that's slightly flicked up on the left-hand side of that vehicle there. That's going to cause some effect to the performance, and it's not going to be a good effect either. Does he come in for the pits this time round? And no, it doesn't. He carries on going around this circuit. But once more, we have a car off on the inside, and that's Reese Saunders. who's dropping down the field. Now, he was fighting quite high up earlier on in this race and finds himself down by quite some margin now. So, unfortunately, he's dropped off 7 positions since the start of this race. So, not the best situation for him. Daniel Fritz just in behind. Fritz having a steady race. It was a bit chaotic at the start, but luckily for some of these guys, they were able to keep out of it mostly. And Shane Piggott was one of those cars involved, the 133. And at the moment, head-to-head with Lee Holmes. Now going up the home straight here, the 35 just in behind. Now remember, the drafting on these cars is going to be a crucial element to this race this season. And we will probably see a lot of overtakes that heavily rely on the drafting system on these cars. Or something to remember as well is that these guys can get very close indeed. So with the tin tops, as you can see, they normally go door to door. These obviously won't be going door to door, but they will be going wheel to wheel and possibly interlocking wheels as well. It's a common occurrence when these guys are battling. Not these ones in particular, but all racers when they're battling in open wheels. Obviously, the car is a little narrower than the wheelbase, so the wheels and tyres do tend to tuck in and possibly scrape some bodywork as well. We've seen it in things like Formula 1, and you even see it in things like the Formula V. So it happens in all kinds of open wheel racing. Skip barbers are common for it as well. Some cars react better and others don't. These are very fragile, so you can see the thin rods that operate that vehicle in terms of the steering, holding the wheel to the car, and also the suspension. All very fragile items that can easily be affected by the slightest of contacts. Now, someone that's had no contact so far and no issues is this man here, Mikkel Andreasen, from the lovely Denmark. A beautiful country. I would love to go there one day. But the 169, currently P3 overall at the moment, and he's just sitting off this battle here as he's probably sitting thinking to himself right now, if Isaac Doble can make a move and slow those two down, he could potentially pounce. And I mean, we did see that earlier on. Yes, it did end up in a collision, but we saw 1 or 2 cars benefit from 3 to 4 cars being clustered up in a battle, and it didn't end well for any of them. As you can see, the car there for Mikkel, I thought he was going to go for the move, but he does back out in the end. It's probably a wise decision at this point as well, because any sort of defending that more he has to do, it's going to cost him a little bit more on the tyres. So it's just like what we would see in any other Formula race. When you're that lead car and you're having to defend, you are using your tyres a lot more than what you would like to do. Now the 196 here, up 7 positions. You can see he's the second car on the screen there. The 130 is the yellow one in front. That is Nigel Stock, and just behind with a lime green rear end and lime green rims there, that is Alistair Hatcher, and he's currently P6, going for the P5 up the inside, and a little lock-up for Nigel Stock, and unfortunately costs him 1 position. Now he's going to have to sit on the rear end of the lime green car there and potentially get a move back on indeed for that. But once again, top 3 all close together, side by side now for Mikkel Andreasen. Can he get it around the outside? No, he's onto the green stuff, back onto the black stuff, where he belongs, onto the tarmac, and unfortunately track wasn't quite wide enough to make that move, and he's going to have to settle in for P3 once more. And this is going to play into the favour of Mr. Maury as well, because even though Mikkel would like to see P2 and P3 battling, it's not happening at the minute, and if anything, Mikkel battling with P2 is slowing those two down and letting the leader get away. So this is playing into the hands of Mr. Maury at the moment. Now Hatcher back on board with him, the 196 going up the inside line now, and you can see there he takes Nigel Stock nice and easily, keeping the throttle wide open there, and unfortunately leads into a spin. And now commentators are meant to stay neutral on this, but I will say there was no brakes being held there as Alistair does roll into Nigel Stock, and unfortunately Nigel Stock on the sand. Luckily he hasn't beached it. Now can he get that car in towards the pits? Let's have a little look from our chopper cam, and well, I think the steering explains the story here, unfortunately for Nigel Stock, having to try and take that car around. Luckily, there is no one coming up behind, but yeah, this is the... let's get the feel for the speed of Nigel's car right now. It's not very good. There's only 2 out of 4 wheels that are facing in the correct direction, and unfortunately being overtaken by multiple people. You can see the angle he's having to hold the wheel at, taking the shortcut here through the corner, but can't even make the turn there because the extent of the damage. As you can see, he's more or less at the pit lane entry now. Can he get in there just before the leaders come around? He can do so indeed. See the P15 car there in the background. That's Shane Piggott. He's going to make the overtake and get a lap back off of Nigel Stock, who's now going to be a lap down as well. And unfortunately, jinxed once again. Commentator's curse. Shane Piggott, the 133, unfortunately spun around just as I say. He gets himself that lap away from, or lap back from Nigel Stock. He unfortunately spins up on the rear corner there on the final turn, and Robert, I'm gonna have to get in touch with you, I think, and find out how we pronounce that surname, because I would love to be able to use it. Now, however, the number 80 car sitting here playing the game of chase at the moment. Who is he chasing? Well, that is Rhys Saunders. Rhys Saunders has lost 3 positions, so he's gained 4 since the spin. I believe it was a spin earlier on in the race, and that spin didn't do any favours for him at all. But he's not doing too badly, to be fair. If he can keep the pace up, maybe try and shave off just a little bit of time in his laps, there's a high chance he will catch James Parker. And James Parker is not far off the top 3. Here is Senor Parker. Now, if we go to the gyrocam, you can see there the top 3 just ahead. There's not much splitting them at all. Now, talking of splitting, let's head over to Dan Morey. This is his view at the moment, and this is what he has to deal with right now as well. As you can see, the 2 cars just on the rear end of his vehicle there. Not as close as they were a few laps ago. However, they're still going to be on his mind. That's still something to worry about and think about as the race goes on. And I've just been informed it's Robert de Koenig. Okay, well, fingers crossed I pronounced that right, and I apologise if not. But yeah, thank you very much for that update there, Mark. I appreciate that. But Dan Morey currently does lead the way. 2 tenths splitting him and Isaac Doble in P2. And Mikael Andreasen there in P3. Now let's have a little look on board then. So this is the onboard cam with Isaac Doble. You can see your leader car there. He's going on the inside, looking for the move. Does he get it done? He's got the nose up the inside, and plenty of room being given there between the 2 cars. Very respectful indeed as they went around that initial first couple of corners. Robert de Koenig. Okay, it's Robert de Koenig. There we go. Now we got the correct one. I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you very much there indeed. Isaac Doble looking to try and test the nerves of Dan Morey and trying to put something on his mind there as the number 20 does spin out in the background. James Parker. Now that is going to bring Rhys Saunders into the action, and you can see Rhys now clambering on to the back. That's Nigel Stock that's made the overtake there, so he doesn't have to worry there. And here is Robert de Koenig on camera, in focus, on screen. Car number 80 there, going a little bit slower on the back straight, which is helping Mr. Saunders pull away. That is your car number 8 there. Now, he's not going to be too far away from James Parker, and that's P4, so he won't be sitting far away from where he started this race. At the minute, Rhys Saunders is only down 3 positions. Unfortunately, the person with the most conceded positions is this man here on your screen, Lee Holmes. He's down 5 at the moment, so not the best start there for Lee, but there is a long race up and coming. Now let's go back to this battle here, because look what's happening. Mikel, the Great Dane, is leading the race currently. However, his nose is only in front by a couple of splinters, if that. Now not... Well, no, he does manage to hold it. He does have that inside line. He's kept his foot planted, and I think that was the only way to keep that position. And that was a lot of airtime there for that Formula 4 car. And the suspension did enough to handle it. Reece Saunders has just gone quickest as well. So he's absolutely flying now. He's tucked up right onto the back of Mr. Parker. And here is James Parker. Car number 20. Let's go back to Dan Morey, who's now putting the pressure on as well. As we're coming down to, well, we're lap 15 out of 20. So we're coming down to the last few minutes here of this race. And number 4 does take the inside. That's Mr. Morey there, but Andreasen has the comeback, and the comeback of dreams as well, because once again he's got his nose in front, but Morey does have the better exit. And as you can see, those cambered wheels there, the front half of that car does get in front. So Dan Morey leads the way, but we do have a 3-wide battle through turn 1, and somehow they make it work. And Mikel, once again, the Dane, has come out on top. There's contact between P2 and P3. Isaac Doble and Dan Morey making contact once more, and a bit of a lock up there from Isaac Doble as well. However, all cars managing to somehow keep it together and going in the right direction. So top job for these racers here, but this has worked out massively for Mikel Andreasen. Coming into the last few laps now, he has 3/10 advantage. Can he maintain that while these two are side by side in behind him? That's going to be the pressure point. Which car do you defend? You've got to decide who's going to get the better exit and try and work it out as time goes on. And just as we're talking about that, Reece Saunders has made the overtake in front of James Parker. Now, can James Parker fight back? He does try and hold that inside line indeed. Car number 20 does get his nose back out in front, but then number 8 on the comeback now has the inside himself and manages to keep his nose in front down the home straight. So the advantage goes the way of number 8 at the moment. Will he be able to maintain it going through the first couple of turns? Let's have a little look here. Andreasen in trouble, and unfortunately massive trouble, as there's contact between him and Isaac Doble. Both of them go spinning. Dan Morey takes the advantage. He goes off into the distance. Mikel Andreasen gets going again. Isaac Doble tries to get his foot down once more, and here you go. This is the battle for P3 now, because they're only a couple of seconds away from each other. As we look at Reece Saunders here, he's not terribly far away from Mr. Doble. You can see Doble there at the bottom of your screen, and the 3 cars following in just behind, all battling for position as well. That's the number 80 there. Unfortunately has a bit of contact with the number 8, and that is Robert Dasunik, and unfortunately he's had some major contact there with car number 8, and Reece Saunders managed to, yeah, he's carrying on. Doesn't seem to have any bad damage there on his vehicle. However, I think the same cannot be said for Robert Dasunik, and yeah, you can see that car's crabbing just a little bit. That rear left just seems to be a little off there, as Reece Saunders does manage to again keep the car on the black stuff and comes across the line. P5 at the moment. Last couple of laps now. That is Alex Meredith just in behind. I say just in behind, a little way in behind, the 119 now coming across the line. Jason Landry as well. All these cars are going to move up a position. Same with Lee Holmes. He's also going to move up a position. Not the greatest of starts. However, Lee Holmes is still doing a fantastic job at that as well. Let's focus back on your leader then. He's coming up onto a back marker. The blue flags will be out. However, Dan knows he can take his time, because 3.6 seconds behind him is P2. And here he is then indeed. The Danish masterclass that we thought we were seeing earlier, until it all ended up in tears after a coming together between Mikel Andreasen and Isaac Doble. Now all these cars have spaced out, and this was kind of expected for this race as time went on, but Dan Morey has now got in front of his back marker and plodding along to the start-finish line, looking to take away his first victory of this season. Obviously season 1 of the Formula 4s, and I've been given the privilege to commentate and broadcast it and bring it to your screens at home as well. Taking us around the final corner. And here we go over the line. You see Barney doing a fantastic job of just standing there. No white flag. However, it is the white flag lap. So someone please get onto Barney and tell him to do his job. But these cars are now all setting their final lap times. Let's bring your quickest lap to you at the moment then. Let's see who has it. At the minute, it is still Reece Saunders. Sorry, it took me a second to find it then. But Reece Saunders does still have that quickest lap of the race. So, a perfect situation for him. Showing that he does have the pace, and that's the momentum you do need heading into this second race of the evening. As the number 4 car does make it around another time. And for Dan Mori, that is victory number 1 of the season as he comes across the line. P1 with a minute flat lap time, pretty much. As we wait for Mikel to also come across the line. He does so there. P2. Isaac Doble, P3. Got James Parker, P4. And Reece Saunders, P5. Unfortunate collision for Reece Saunders. P5. Just when we thought things were starting to get better and going well for him. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work for him. As we wait for the last few cars just to come across the line. And it looks like we've had a bit of contact here between the 2 Dutchmen out there. Robert de Soenik and Ian Craigle. The 1-2-4 car going very slow. And I've noticed that Robert doesn't have a rear wing again. So and looks like that rear left once again is out of action. It's pointing the wrong way, unless it was a speedy repair and he never actually had it. We won't know. We'll find out from the driver at some point. However, the race is now over for race 1 this evening. What we'll do is we'll bring you your results up onto screen for you now. So Dan Mori did finish a P1. A heated battle at the middle of that race, but it didn't end well for Mikel Andreas and Isaac Doble, who did have a coming together, and they finished P2 and P3. James Parker in P4, just missing out on those podium spots. Reece Saunders with the quickest lap of the session, finishing a grand total of 15 seconds behind, and he was P5. But Alex Meredith, P6. However, he got that P1 for the silver class. Jason Landry, P7 there. And we've got Lee Holmes in behind P8. Robert Soenik in P9. Then we've got P10 for Ian Craigle. And that's obviously the P2 spot for him as well in his class. Glenn Humberstone obviously started towards the back of the grid. Ended up with a decent finish just outside the top 10. I'd respect that as a good finish, to be fair. And remember, we do have a longer race coming up as well. But P11 for Glenn there. Nigel Stock, P12. Shane Piggott, P3. Daniel Fritz, P14. P14. Yeah, that is correct. Sorry. Nigel Stock, P3 in his class, P12 overall. And then we have Shane Piggott, P13. Daniel Fritz, P14. Alistair Hatcher, P15. And Jamie Dory, who wasn't on the grid, in P16. So that was your grid for the first race. Now what we're going to do is we're going to switch back to the starting screen, and we'll be on that just for a few moments, and we'll return to your screens with the second race. Remember, this next race is the longer one, the 50-minute one, so this will be a perfect time just for a couple of minutes. Go grab a drink, something to eat, settle down, ready for race 2 here in the Formula 4 for Next Gen Racing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I hope you have your drink, your food, your snacks, whatever you need, because we are settling in here for the longer race, 50 grand minutes, and certainly going to be something interesting. Let's bring the grid to you, though. Dan Morey, currently sitting P1, and Reece Saunders P2. That's what it looks like. However, it's not, because I can tell you this, the grid lines up differently. And because as you can see there, the P2 spot is being held by the number 80 of Robert Sunik. So what we'll do is we'll bring up the grid this way. That will shape into the perfect layout in just a moment. Just waiting for Daniel Fritz and possibly Jamie Dory. And the green flag is out, so we're not going to have those two cars. And apologies that the lineup wasn't working correctly there, but I can tell you this, Robert Sunik is currently P1 and keeps foot flat to the floor there for the first term. As we see your driver of Lee Holmes there on the outside, number 35, Jason Landry. A car that does stick out in that camo black, red and grey livery. Number 5 there, going around, settles in for P2. If you can get into a nice routine, a nice system for this event, for this race, it works out fantastically in your favour, because it is all about rhythm here in these sessions. And again, a little bit of a bump between some of these cars. They're trying to go 3 wide on a circuit that's it looks very wide. However, I think it's very misleading, especially with these cars. Once you get 3 wide, to maintain your momentum, you need the perfect line. Now, these cars really are going to try and get that perfect line even when 3 wide. So they're trying to push each other to their limits and slightly beyond that, as we've seen so far this race already. And a bit of side-by-side action here. Car number 21 on the outside of the 1-3-3 of Shane Piggott. Shane Piggott taking the inside line, and in fact, yeah, we're going to hold on to Glenn. I was going to switch over to the 1-3-3, but we like that profile a little too much. And oh no, that's not good. Not good at all. Mr. Morey and Ian Craigle both involved in a collision. And this collision happened early on in the race as well. As you can see here, it happened just after the first couple of corners. I don't see any long-lasting damage on those cars. They're going to hope there isn't any anyway, as we find Shane Piggott here towards the barrier, looking out of the track. I'm afraid, Shane, you can't go home just yet. There's still a race to be had. So Shane realises that he can't leave the circuit just yet and carries on his way. So not the best start for some of these cars. And I imagine just a bit of a missed braking zone and possibly even a slight bit of contact, seeing as Shane's already coming into the pits. Dan Morey, however, is able to carry on. So we have Alistair Hatcher, Shane Piggott and Ian Craigle all into the pits, and it looks like the 196 of Alistair Hatcher is coming out of the pits already. Let's check in with your leader then. Robert Sunik is still doing a fantastic job at the moment. The car number 80 just holding off Alex Meredith at the moment. Can Alex Meredith be the first silver class car to sit in P1 this season? Well, I don't think we had a P1 silver sitter in the first race, so this will be the first time this season that happens. And can the Silvers lead by example? The 119 looks towards the outside line, probably wanted the inside there, however may benefit from a slightly better exit here on the long straights. As you can see, that time is slightly coming down, so he's going to be ahead just for a few moments anyway, as he does set the quickest lap and he now is in the lead. Advantage goes to Meredith. 119. That is your leader right there, a silver class car. And now, obviously, you've seen how close the times are for the gold and for the silver. So there's not much between the two classes. I'm saying the silver class driver is in the lead and making a big deal out of it. It is a big deal because it's the first time this season. However, the skill gap between the two groups is minute. It's basically next to nothing. As you can see, the car number 80 going towards the inside for the next turn. The 119 having to sacrifice that inside line, possibly going for the switchback up the middle of the corner, and unfortunately there's contact there with James Landry, who suffered from that move. Didn't see the switchback coming, and unfortunately the two cars had a coming together right on the apex of that corner. Then the number 8 does take the inside line. That's Reece Saunders trying to make amends from race 1. Now we're on lap 4 of 50 as the leader does cross the line just now. Now lap 5 of 50. Do apologise. James Parker setting the quickest lap time there. He's absolutely flying. 1 minute point 1. Or to be, sorry, that may be a bit misleading. 1 minute and 1/10. And your leader, or your former leader, car number 80, off track there. I believe I did hear a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact between car number 80 and the 119, and unfortunately that has sent them both wide. Not the ideal situation for them, as car number 20 is now leading the way. So James Parker, who did just set the quickest lap, is now leading the pack. Can James use that pace and clear a gap at the front of this group? That's going to be the question. Now it's going to be tricky because there's no draft for him in the front. However, Robert Sunik's going to benefit from the draft, especially down this straight as well, because that is going to pull him right into the leaders, and Rhys Saunders is into the pits. Now, I don't believe the pit window was open this early, so potentially a fault with either the equipment of the racer or the car itself, but the car has stopped and back underway again, so possibly a minute repair, but rather it be said and done than trying to limp his way around with a slightly broken car. Back towards here then, so let's have a little focus on the Great Dane, as I think I'm going to start nicknaming him for this season. This is on board with Mikael Andreasen. 169 there, you can see him just getting on to the back of Alex Meredith, and Alex being your first ever silver leader. Doing a fantastic job, keeping in amongst it at the minute with the golds. You see, on the brakes a little hard there for Mikael Andreasen. He's got to be careful on some of these corners, especially with the attack approach. As you can see, the car's swerving left to right down the straight, trying to break the draft and the slipstream. And unfortunately, some cars not able to do that. In fact, they're all not able to do it. They're all catching onto the back of each other, and oh, there's almost contact there, and there is going to be a little bit of wheel-to-wheel, and there is going to be a spin pretty much for Mikael Andreasen. He'd done so well to keep that car in a straight line facing the correct direction, but unfortunately the overspeed there into the corner was just a little too much, and the car does end up off the track. Now, I believe there's just a little bit of toe-out angle on the car of Mikael Andreasen, because to me that front right looks like it could be a little bit off, but I think that could just be an extra little bit of toe-out angle, maybe out by a few degrees. And maybe that's the whole part of the setup plan for car number 169. Now what we're going to do is go over and focus on this man here, Isaac Doble, who really did get involved in the first race, was in amongst it, fisticuffs with a lot of the other drivers, and he's doing a good job here so far. P7 overall. Not too bad for him, but let's look towards Alex Meredith just as we find a point where things seem like they were calming down. Well, I can tell you this, they're certainly not, as Alex Meredith at the moment is trying to hunt down the number 5 of Jason Landry. Now, what does Jason Landry possess in this race that Alex Meredith wants? Not only is it a position higher up the field, but it is a position on that podium spot. Now, Alex Meredith, being the silver racer in this group, does take the advantage up the inside. Unfortunately, outbrakes himself and concedes it straight away. So instantly a swap of positions, but then it swaps back. And just as we say that, Mr. Sunik has in fact got the lead. So he now overtakes James Parker and is trying to break the draft all the way down the straight once more, swerving left to right. That is your leader currently, the number 80. Jason Landry has done enough this time round from Canada to keep that podium spot. Now, it's a very long race, so he's got a long while to maintain this advantage, shall we say, above Alex Meredith. A couple attempts in it at the moment, and that will come down, but again, it'll fluctuate. It's one of those things, it'll fluctuate as the race goes on, so it will go down, it will go up. There's no saying as to where it's going to sit, and at this moment in time, you are not going to be able to tell who is going to win this race, because obviously we're on lap 9, about to be lap 10 of 50, and again up the inside for the 119, the 5 is going to concede the position. A late move from the 119 manages to put him in front. Only momentarily concedes position from the outside line, but once again has his nose up the inside. Can he hold out? Car number 5, unfortunately, not able to do so. Jason Landry gets the move done on the outside, now down the home straight. And the runners are still the same order as they once were. Now, this is one of your closest battles out there on the field at the moment. The next closest is now going to be for your lead, who's only 2 to 3 tenths away. Just like I say that, Dan Morey, I was going to say getting really close to Alistair Hatcher. And Alistair Hatcher able to move off. And Dan Morey, unfortunately, there's a bit of contact. We don't know exactly what happened or who caused it, who came together. Sorry, we do know who came together. That was Dan Morey and Alistair Hatcher. However, the root cause of that situation we do not know. So hopefully nothing too malicious, and potentially just a driver error or a racing incident. Now, the 119 currently sitting in P3. So a P1 for class and a P3 overall. This will be the ideal finishing position for Alex Meredith. There's a long push to get towards the top of the tower again. Now, one thing is to note as Jason Landry takes that P3 spot back again, holding the accelerator wide open on those corners, maintaining the inside line all the way through, but the better exit for the 119 as they do finish their side-by-side battle with the 119 sitting out in front. Number 5 taking a very wide line there, but it's fine to do so because the corner is, well, I'd say almost straight. It feels almost straight when you're inside the car. There's barely any turn to the corner really. Can maintain full pace as you're flying around, and that is a pit stop there for the 119. Alex Meredith into the pits. Now he's going to lose out on some positions there. Car number 5 is going to have that bottom podium spot. Now he doesn't have any pressure as of yet. However, Mikkel Andreasen does. Lee Holmes just in behind, P4 and P5. They need to ideally work together to catch those cars up ahead, as we see Nigel Stock now leaving the pits as well. Unless these guys are going for a very early pit strategy. In my books, it seems a little too early to come in at this point in time. As we see Lee Holmes now trying to get up onto the back of Mikkel, and does so indeed. Side by side into the right-hander. Enough done for Mikkel right now. But there's barely a tenth between the two. As you see, Mikkel does take full advantage and sits into P4. 35 conceding the position. Bounces 2 wheels up on the inside curve as they come around again to mark lap number 13. Or get onto lap number 13, shall we say. And the quickest lap going to Jason Landry, who now isn't under pressure with constant battling with Alex Meredith, and is able to really get his head down and get some qualifying pace going. Seeing that all the battles have now sort of calmed down between him and anyone else out there on track. Now James Parker trying to get up onto the rear end of the number 80. That is your leader there as well. So see Rhys Saunders and Glenn Humberstone switching positions as the number 8 looks to go up onto the outside. In fact, no, not Glenn Humberstone, sorry, Alex Meredith. Alex Meredith there on the right hand side of your screen with Rhys Saunders on the left hand side of your screen. Number 8, Rhys Saunders, does take the inside line, the 119. Going to have to surrender that position. Now, one key thing I was going to mention when Jason Landry and Meredith were battling is both of them have front wing damage. Both of them have little bends and dents on their front wing, and it's going to be obvious to see that on this straight. There you go. Look at the left hand side of your screen with the front wing there on the front of Alex Meredith's car. There you go. You could just see it poking out the back of Rhys Saunders' vehicle there. You can see how the right hand side of that wing is not in good shape at all. Just in front of that front right tyre, it's not looking good for him. you can see, this is the view from the rear end of that car of Reece Saunders at the moment. And just as I say that, it looks like Alex Meredith has got up in front. They are going to be side by side. And I thought there was going to be a bit of a spin there, but does very well, Alex Meredith, to keep that car going. And let's see if I can now show you that damage. There you go. So you can now see it on the left-hand side of that car as we look at it. You can see the damage there on that front wing. Thank you for the close-up. Just on cue. Alex, appreciate that. Perfect timing, sir. But that is going to be something that potentially costs Alex there in this race. It's not going to be an easy job to balance that out. You see the number 80 now getting half a second gap to the car in behind. Ooh, a little bit of a spin up of the wheels there for the 35 on the outside line now of the 169 Mikel Andreasen. And Mikel now finding himself on the outside line. That's how quickly it does change around this circuit. You could be side by side for an entire lap and not realise you've done an entire lap, because the lap seems so short around here, only being roughly a minute long. As you can see there, a minute flats coming in for most of the drivers. When you've got side-by-side action, you find yourself on the inside and outside line for maybe a 10-second side-by-side battle. You've gone through at least 4 to 5 corners by then. It can get quite tense compared to bigger tracks where, you know, you may go side-by-side through 1 or 2 corners at the most, but that's pushing it. You know, the battles don't go on much longer than that normally. Depending on how good the racers are, I guess. But Glenn Humberstone, speaking of good racers, this fine gentleman here has just put in his quickest lap of the session. So picking up the pace is Glenn at the moment. Only half a second behind Isaac Dable. Isaac Dable being a familiar name, and a name that I'm sure most of you at home will know, and a tricky customer to get by as well. So Glenn Humberstone's going to have his work cut out for him, really, with that build-up, with that battle going on there. Number 20 looking to go up the inside line of the 80 of Robert Sunic. And Robert Sunic at the minute able to maintain his position. As you can see, the names in blue on the timing tower, those names, if done correctly, should label that the cars in blue have been lapped. And unfortunately, those cars that aren't in blue, that are further down, are out of the session, as you can see by the word out there for Daniel Fritz, Jamie Dory. And unfortunately, Dan Morey, who's going down lap by lap at the minute, still in the pits at the moment. Whether that is due to getting repairs or that is the end of the session and potentially retirement for Morey, I'm not too sure. We'll find out as the race goes on. This is where we need Ted Kravitz down in the pits. That would be a massive help right now. He could tell me what's going on with that car. Let's see if we can focus on Dan Morey. He is down there in the pits at the minute. I imagine probably getting some work done to that car. Getting a bit of TLC as we look towards the battle for P1. There is your leader just ahead of Mr. Parker that we're on board with at the moment. You can see the dirt on the visor in the mirror on the right hand side of your screen there. It's one thing to remember with these cars. Things do get quite dirty in terms of the visors with these open wheel cars. Remember, no windscreen or any form of protection in that case. And I was going to say, it sounded like someone was locking up at somewhere. And that was Mikel Andreasen skidding in the background. Same with Nigel Stock, the car 130, doing something very similar there. Hatcher, the first person able to make it around that corner in a nice, safe fashion. But once more, Parker and Sunic, I think this is going to be the battle between these two. Unless something drastic happens and there's potentially contact between the two, I think this could be the battle all the way to the end of the race, because they're not letting each other go without a fight. And understandably as well, when you're fighting for the lead, this is something you're not going to let go of very easily. And there is the 1-2-4. Ian Craigle coming around. Unfortunately, not had the best of nights this far, and in fact, he's going straight into the pits as well. So not been the best of situations for him there. Now let's check in with the man who's the first silver to put it into P1. Locks up, going for the move on Reese Saunders, and unfortunately not able to keep that move and maintain that position. You can see the front end scratched and a little beat up, obviously from some earlier battles. You can see that nose does point down a little more than what it should by the looks of things. So obviously that is going to have some effect on the downforce and the performance of this car. Could also just be the way the sun is reflecting off of it. But to me, that does look like it's a little beaten up more than normal and facing a little further down than normal as well. So you can see the inside right lock up there all the way around that corner. Done very well not to make it any worse as well. Keep a steady foot on the old brakes and manages to keep the car in one piece. Now the gaps have all spread out, nearly a second between the top two. So Robert Sunic running away with it at the minute as well, as we are seeing some cars entering the pits. Now whether that be for repairs or early pit stops, I'm not too sure, but they are coming in slowly one by one at the minute, and we could be entering that sort of pit window at the moment anyway. If these guys are going to need any form of repairs, it's down to their sort of decision. If their car still works and they're not getting that meatball flag, it's going to be their decision on whether they actually come in to get those issues sorted or not, because for some people it's not too bad driving a car with some light damage. For others it's a nightmare and they'd rather get it done sooner than later, as Glenn Humberstone is into the pits. And you can see there Glenn Humberstone now leaving the pits, so that is a regular pit stop for Glenn. Didn't see any damage on that car when he entered the pits. A nice clean pit stop there for Glenn Humberstone, showing us how it should be done in a Formula car with the pit stops. Manages to come out in front of Shane Piggott, and Shane Piggott is here, the 133, sorry. You can see him in the background. I'm sure that battle will slowly start to close up as Glenn looks to get some heat into those tyres. Now the question is, the battle for the lead, how long is Robert Sunic going to be able to maintain this for? Because yes, okay, the timings aren't exactly, you know, bumper to bumper, shall we say. However, he does have mirrors, and mirrors are the biggest enemy of any racer who's in that P1 spot. Because the whole time you're going to be focused on what is happening in those mirrors and worrying about defending than you are pulling away. For most people, that is anyway. Just as I say that, we do have the top two into the pits now. Question is, who gets the better pit stop? In fact, the top three are in the pit, so Jason Landry also joining the pit lane group. Well, this is going to make things very interesting indeed, in terms of who can get the better pit stop, who can get out quicker. No position changes for that pit stop, so a regular stop for all cars involved. As you can see, Reese Saunders did gain a position or two. In fact, he's gained 2 positions there from the long exits of this pit lane here in Spain. That's worked out in Reese's favour, and he's now moved up into P2 from P4. So in one straight turn, he's managed to pick up 2 positions, so fantastic work for that number 8 car. However, the pit stops were the thing that got him there, so I think there was a little bit of early damage for the number 8 car, and if I'm not mistaken, that damage was done too early. I'm not too sure if that will count as a pit stop or not, depending on if the pit window was open. But you can see there, unfortunately, we've lost another car, and that is Iron Craigle. Down by 4 laps to your leader, Shane Piggott, on the exit of the pit lane. He comes out now. He's going to come out in the thick of this battle. Going to have the blue flag, so I imagine he probably would hold up and let those drivers by. Potentially, I could be wrong, and it looks like I am, as Reese Saunders does have to go around the outside of the 133, and Shane Piggott does wait up just a little bit just to let those cars by. Realised that he could be in the way here. As Jason Landry is the next car to try and get by that back marker. Now, being lapped is a bad thing to most, and it's not something that people take lightly, that they really don't want it to happen if they can avoid it. However, being lapped on a circuit like this is not necessarily a bad thing. Laps being only 1 minute long, that's not a great deal of time. And I feel like it would be easy-ish to reel some of that time back in as well. So when you think about your pit stop as at least 30 seconds, that's half a lap. So anything could happen technically. As you can see, these cars still bringing in those lap times all around 1 minute. Now this is the stage in the race where the racers are starting to patch out just ever so slightly, as we've got Alistair Hatcher into the pits and coming back out of the pits now. He's on his pit road exit. A regular pit stop there for Alistair by the looks of things as well. That's good work so far from the top three. Keeping the battles nice and close for us, more or less for the entire race. Now time has dropped off ever so slightly between Reece Saunders and our leader, Robert Sunic. He does lead the race still, and doing a good job of it at the moment as well. Maintaining a good solid pace, and doing his best to maintain the gap. But just as I say that, 3/10 between him and Reece Saunders has gone and disappeared, up like a puff of smoke. Six-tenths is all that splits P2 and P3. This is the closest battle on your screen at the moment, and all the other cars do seem to be a good few seconds from each other. So this is the situation with this track. When cars do spread out, it seems like they're miles apart, but they're really not. It's only a case of maybe a handful of corners, but again, even being a lap down doesn't seem like much when you're on a circuit of this size, which is a little smaller than most other circuits. We can see there's a bit of a spin in the background there, and I think we know exactly who that is. That was Shane Piggott, who's actually taken the tow back to the pit lane. So back to the pits for Shane Piggott. We are now down to I think we're down one car. I think everyone else is out and about potentially. No, we are still down 4 cars, unfortunately. I thought things may look a little better now. Maybe there's a few more cars out on track according to my records, but sadly not. So we are now down 4 cars, but Jason Landry is not letting anything bother him at the minute. 59.7, quickest lap we've seen so far. So he's managed to shave off 3/10 somewhere. And I'm sure the entire grid would like to know where exactly. But you see Jason now trying to close that gap to the car ahead. Only 2/10, 3/10 now, splitting those two vehicles. As you see, the car number 20 just ahead there, James Parker. 1.3 off of your leader. Now, obviously something to remember, Reece Saunders was up there in amongst the action, and now has fallen back down due to his pit stop. 59.696 for Jason Landry. So once more going quick again. Quickest lap time. That's back-to-back quickest lap times. Back-to-back purples, as those fellow racers would like to call it. Now that obviously spells a lot of good things for Jason Landry. It means he is going to be pulling that car in ahead of him. And not only that, he's also going to be clawing ever so closer to our leader as well. There may be a car between him and the leader, but that's not going to change the fact that he is pulling that time back. Now the tricky part is going to be get by James Parker. It's not going to be an easy job to do, but if you can find yourself close enough on the straight, there is all the chance that the draft is going to do you a massive favour. Because at the minute, James Parker does not have the draft from the leader. Not quite anyway. He's just outside of it. Can Jason Landry send it up the inside? He looks to do so, wheel to wheel. He now, in fact, does get his nose in front, and number 20 does concede the position. Parker looks potentially for a switchback. No, goes around and looks for the better exit for that number 20, and he seems to have a little bit extra speed. As you can see, that time does start coming down ever so slightly, but it is fluctuating a little bit, which means there's not enough speed to get that overtake done by the looks of things. Possibly during this little straight here. In fact, no, he's not going to be able to make that move. So, Jason Landry moves up into P2. 2 seconds off the leader, though, so that has cost him a little time to our leader of the race, which is still Robert Sunic. Robert Sunic absolutely smashing it so far. I wouldn't say it's a dominating performance. Things have been a bit hairy in certain situations. However, he's done a fantastic job and handled it amazingly. So, top quality work for Mr. Sunic. Now we've got two different battles, both half a second from each other. Obviously, we've got James Parker being one of them, Reece Saunders being another. Reece Saunders obviously having good races tonight. Yes, okay, maybe not gone the way that Reece would have wanted it to. However, shown a good, strong performance this far. Plenty of overtakes and plenty of promising laps as well. You can see here the time between these two is coming down. So Reece Saunders is now starting to put the pressure on Mikael Andreasen. Again, Mikael being another one of those drivers. Solid performance tonight. Looks really strong. Some errors and some slip-ups here and there, but nothing major. All racers have things that they can improve ever so slightly. Some are more visible than others. And, well, for Reece, he'll be reading between the lines in this race, watching it back, and I'm sure trying to improve and see where he possibly went wrong or where things went right, and trying to work things out amongst that. As you see, Reece Saunders now right onto the back tail of Mikael Andreasen. Looks up the inside, does the number 8, keeps the move, and a car length ahead before part 2 of the first turn. And there goes car number 8. Now moves that one more position. 169 in behind of Mikael Andreasen. So a good move for him. Nice and safe, and hasn't lost much time to the car ahead. However, 5.5 seconds. A lot of time to try and gain back, but I do think it is possible. Like we were saying earlier, even with your laps, I feel like the time to claw back is more than achievable. As you can see here, Mikael Anderson sneaking up onto the back ever so slowly, and just as I say that, we've got Isaac Dobell. I would say he was quite close to Meredith there, but obviously that time now going up again. I didn't realise that Isaac Dobell was actually on the pit exit there. It would help if I read what was in front of me. But that time probably will close up, because Isaac Dobell does have some strong pace around here. Everyone does have some good pace though, so it's going to be difficult to close that down. But if he can try and pull something out of the bag, just like Jason Landry did, and knock off a few tenths here and there, this will work out massively for him, and it'll be ideal. He'll be able to draw in those cars ahead of him, and potentially make a move and make the move worthwhile as well. Now, don't forget, during this season, we will have a couple of races which are deemed as endurance races, which are over an hour long. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for those. I believe the first one of those is round 4. So if you want to watch that, you know what to do. I shouldn't need to remind you by now, but just in case I do need to remind you, obviously you can get involved by using all the Next Gen socials. There's Kick, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, the lot. There's all sorts out there. So get yourselves involved. You know the name, Next Gen Racing. Keep it in your mind, keep it fresh. And obviously there is a Discord as well, so whether you want to take part in the racing or you just want to jump in there for a chat with the racers, that's fine. Either way, not a problem at all. Discord isn't limited to just people that are doing racing. Obviously, if you want to join, just chill in there, have some chats, and maybe get to know some of the racers, or possibly even learn something, and possibly get some lessons if you need them. It's all possible. So, if you get the chance, jump into the Discord. And get talking, get yourself known, get involved. There's always spaces for different roles and different things within Next Gen. Some fantastic series as well, either ongoing series or potentially series that are coming up in the future. So always keep your eyes peeled. But back towards the action then. And one thing is to notice so far in this 50-minute race, not many people have bent up front wings or any sort of long-lasting damage that may only look minor, but obviously has some effect into the performance throughout the race. Obviously, race 1 we saw quite common sign of wing tips all bent in, and the front wing was definitely not straight for most cars. And we see Alex Meredith coming into the pits. Yellow flag being waved by Barney. That's the first flag I think I've seen waved here this evening. Well, apart from the green one at the start. Meredith still in the pits. Potentially some damage on that car for Meredith. Let's check in with Reece Saunders then. And Reece Saunders at the minute. Car number 8 in a bit of a sandwich at the moment. A few tenths off the car ahead. And a little way back just after that is Mikael Andreasen, nearly a second behind. Nevertheless, that's not too far as we go across the line. And we are on lap 37 of 50, so we're getting towards the latter stages of this competition. So it will be a bit of an eye-opener now for these guys, because some are going to push a lot harder than others, and that could entail spins, just like that for the number 21, Glenn Humberstone, unfortunately. A prime example of what I was saying, because we're getting towards the end of the race. Some people may be pushing for positions a little harder than others, so we may see some spins, may see some slips, and we may see some collisions. Who knows? It could just be clean racing to the end, and I could just be talking a load of rubbish. Let's hope so, because that is always the best kind of racing for us, really. So we do have a car off into the pits, and that is not Glenn Humberstone that's off into the pits. That is Mikael Andreasen. Looking for the black and orange car. I knew who it was, but I just couldn't find the name. But Mikael is now into the pit lane. Is this going to be a regular stop? As you can see there on your screen, it was not a regular stop for Alex Meredith, who's not even in the car anymore. So a potential retirement for Meredith there. Doesn't look like a long repair, because that car looks pretty good condition to me. But Mikael Andreasen, pit exit. Comes out in front of P8 now, as you can see there, according to track map. Plenty of time to P8 as well. Let's have a little look towards Nigel Stock then. Here he is in the final corners, and he's actually with your leaders. So he's a back marker at the minute, just having to get out of the way of James Parker, who's closed the gap down to 1.3 seconds to your leader. Let's come across here one more time. That's lap 39 of 50. So we're approaching the last 10 laps of the session now, and that is going to form into a bit of a sprint for these racers. More puff of smoke there on the exits, and it seems to be those quicker corners that are catching people off guard, possibly not slowing down enough and trying to get the downforce to take them through the corner. A slow car there on the inside, and I think I know who that is. That is Iron Craigle. I think it was more just a backmarker getting out of the way than a car having issues, as he picks up the pace again now and cracks back on with the racing. Although I say that, he is a little slower than normal through that corner, but potentially cold tyres or just getting back into the rhythm of things, because it is not easy to jump straight into the rhythm after anything happened in the race that wasn't planned. For example, any form of collision, spin, or even just the back tyres heating up a little too much because you've maybe not spun out, but you've got the tyres spinning on some of the corners, and it is not an easy thing to get back into your rhythm again for the rest of the race. As you see here, only a couple of tenths between Alistair Hatcher and Nigel Stock. Nigel Stock having that big yellow nose. Planting his car right in front at the minute. Possibly parking it on a few apexes maybe to try and create a bit of a gap for himself. However, he's got to focus on them exits. The exits here are way more important than the entries into the corners. As we've seen multiple times, some people have not got the best of entries. However, they've got the foot down early on the accelerator and got a fantastic exit out of most of these corners. And as you can see, unfortunately, Meredith completely out now. So that is a retirement, early retirement for Meredith there, sadly. And there goes Rhys Saunders now on the back tailpipes of Jason Landry. Now remember, Jason was absolutely flying around earlier on this evening. Still is very much as well flying around. However, not in the positions he wanted to be in. He's currently fighting to hold that P4 spot. Rhys Saunders is the man that could potentially move up into that P4 spot. I've had a switch over of the lead. And, well, I say switch over the lead, and that is why. That's why there's been a switch of the old P1. James Parker carries on, and Robert Sunic in the pits. Is it a regular pit stop? That's going to be the question. No new tyres, but fuel on board by the looks of things for the number 80. So is that going to be a splash and dash now to the line? As we have gone on to lap number 42 of 50. There is an overtake there as well. Rhys Saunders does concede the position to Jason Landry, as I believe they were side by side down that straight as well. And may have been a slight form of panic there for those two, seeing Robert Sunic coming out of the pits. Because one, they know he's quick, and two, they don't really want to be side by side into turn one with someone whose tyres are a little cooler than normal. So maybe a bit of a nerve-wracking moment for those racers. Nevertheless, it's been and gone now already, and they can crack on, carry on from where they left off. Let's jump back to Alistair Hatcher. As you see at the minute, Alistair playing the long game, trying to get the attack on the 130 there, but big news here. Lee Holmes and James Parker into the pits end. So these two into the pits. In fact, James Parker already on the way out. James Parker P3. Jason Landry moved up. Rhys Saunders, they're now fighting for the lead. And Sunic has got out in front of James Parker. So the stop didn't work too well for Senor Parker. At 2.3 seconds behind is Robert Sunic. Now this has turned in from the battle from P4 to the battle of P1. So by the looks of it, I misjudged the fuel tanks, and from what I can tell and from what I can see, these racers are having to do like a couple of pit stops in this session because they need to refuel the fuel tanks a couple of times. 50 laps is a long time, in my opinion, in an open-wheel car. Obviously, bearing in mind the Formula 1 events are normally 60-odd laps on average. And I know this track is a little smaller than most of those, but it is still a long distance to go when you think about it. It's still a rather large number to tackle when you see that 50. It's a little daunting to start with, especially after you've just done a 20-lap race as well. So 70 laps altogether. That's without qualifying and practice beforehand as well, and the warm-up in between. 5-minute warm-up between the races as well. That's a lot of racing behind the wheel, and that's a lot your car has to endure as well. So longevity with these cars is going to be crucial, and luckily we don't have a whole development system like the F1 does, because that would prove chaos and carnage, especially for reliability issues. But the number 8 does get the move up the inside, maintains that inside line now. Fantastic defensive manoeuvre for that number 8 of Rhys Saunders. No pit lane job for either of these two yet. Now Jason Landry will be happy with this at the moment, because he'll feel he deserves this P2 position at least. Arguing he possibly deserves P1 as well, with the quick lap times he's put in, beating his own lap time back to back, setting purples all the way around. 59.979 for Robert Sunic, and that's a great time indeed. That's only 3/10 away from the quickest lap of the session, so not doing a bad job whatsoever there. See 2/10 now between the leaders. Lap 45 of 50. 5 laps to go. I have to admit, even though the track is a little smaller than what most would like, I have to admit I really do enjoy it. It's a nice flowing track, and once you get your pace going, you can really keep it up as well. So it's a great circuit to have some fantastic racing on. You see the number 8 still holding that lead at the minute. Half a second between the top two cars. Robert Sunic has squashed out 2/10 from the battle of the top two. 2.1 seconds it was a minute ago. That's now gone up again. 2.3. So back to square one for Robert Sunic, unfortunately, from his pit exit earlier on a few laps ago. Lap 46 of 50. Are these top two going to end up coming in for another pit stop? Or have they done a masterclass in terms of coming in early? Because I believe Rhys Saunders was someone that did end up in early. I'm not too sure if it was for damage or if it was a regular pit stop and possibly a strategy. However, if these two don't actually come into the pits, they're on for a fantastic finish here. And Robert Sunic has been almost caught off guard big time here, really. As the gap now extends almost to half a second between the top two. And Iron Craigle, unfortunately, in the pit lane, and 4 laps down as well, so potentially a retirement there for P11. Glenn Humberstone, P10. He's not doing a too bad job to be within the top 10 still, after a race that's been somewhat chaotic. The main thing is he's still out on track, and hopefully enjoying himself as well. Battle now in the final few corners of this lap. There's the number 8. Seems to have everything under control. Looks quite cool and composed in his racing ability as well. There was a little bit of a twitch in that final corner, but I think that would just be possibly the tyres struggling for a little bit of grip here and there. You can see the dust flicking off the tyres as they go down the straight onto the rumbles. A wide corner there for the number 8, and very tight line for the number 5 instead. It's not going to do him massive amounts of favours, as the time doesn't change between the two. Lap number 48 of 50 then, as your leaders still battling it out once more. Heading towards Jason Landry then. On board, there he is, going for the move, looking up the inside line. He is going to be side by side. Can he make the move stick? And unfortunately, he's not going to be able to hold that side by side, as he does drop in behind. And now back behind your leader once more. This is his view across the start-finish line then this time around. He's going to swing over and look to get that draft on the car ahead. He's probably just as focused as his profile picture at the minute as well. So he looks towards the outside line and does have wheel-to-wheel motion there with your leader. Backs off a little earlier and looks for the switchback. Can he get it? Can he get his wheel side by side? Unfortunately not. He's still going to be single file traffic at the moment. Lap 49 of 50, so things are starting to come down to the wire now. As you can see, these two do not want to give up this win at all, as Jason Landry and Saunders are both side by side. However, looks like Landry might get stuck behind the back marker. This could work out in Landry's favour, because there's a poor exit for the number 8, because he had to cut it a lot shorter than what he wanted to do. And in fact, I think that's going to be neutral for these two, and that's not going to take much effect on the battle at all, as it looks like Jason Landry is potentially about to get a big jump there out of the corner on the number 8. And I didn't realise, but that was the final lap. I didn't even see the white flag go out. But Reece Saunders has actually come across in P1. And he managed to get the victory there. So apologies about that. I thought this was going to be the white flag this time round. I completely got that wrong. But a top quality race for this man on screen. Jason Landry keeping the pressure up. 3/10 between him and the leader in the end. Unfortunately for Robert Sunic, things didn't quite go to plan towards the end of the session. However, definitely a redemption since race 1. So not all bad then for him. Certainly bits to complain about, but plenty of positives there to take away as well. Remember, this is season 1, this is round 1 as well. So there's plenty to take from this and build on as we go through the season. Just wait for the final cars to come across the line, and there was the final car to come across the line. And that is Nigel Stock. And that was a great race indeed. We look towards your feature results as the cars do make their way into the pits for the final time this evening. Then Reece Saunders did finish P1, so a great race for Reece, who obviously, as we've seen, have been up and down the grid all night long here this evening. And finally gets what he deserves, that P1 finish. Jason Landry, unfortunately, just missing out and sitting in that P2 spot. Again, fantastic racing. Plenty of ups and downs for him. Also, quickest lap of the race. So, good, solid job for him. Robert Sunic, P3, finishes off that podium spot. Now, remember, they're not only overall podium sitters, but they are podium sitters for their class as well in that order. James Parker, P4, Isaac Doble, P5, Lee Holmes, P6, Mikael Andreasen, P7, Nigel Stock, now he finished P8, however, P1 for the Silvers, and we've got P9 for Alistair Hatcher, but P2 in his group, and then we go to Glenn Humberstone, P10, Ian Craigle, P11, however, P3 in his group as well, so may have finished in the pits, but did pick up a podium spot. Alex Meredith, P12, and Shane Piggott, P13. Dan Morey, P14, Daniel Fritz and Jamie Dory. Unfortunately, we didn't see them in that race at all, and they were P15 and P16. So, some fantastic racing overall this evening. Some absolutely world-class battling, and once more, some close wheel-to-wheel racing. This was obviously round 1, and week 1, should I say, at Circuito de Navarra. And it was a fantastic session at that as well. And I hope you all have enjoyed. This is going to round off week 1, and we will commence into week 2. Not very long from now at all. A few days away is the next race. So make sure you are there and ready to go for more fantastic Formula 4 racing. Hopefully, or maybe, we'll have some more races on track as well. But that just adds to the thrill and the excitement of racing when you have a load of cars on track. So fingers crossed we'll see you all again next time, not only in the stands but on track as well. And remember, if you want to get involved in the next gen, you can do so via the Discord, and all social links available in descriptions and plastered everywhere you may look. So if you wish to get yourselves involved, please do. It's a fantastic place to be, and some great opportunities do open up as well, so make sure you stay tuned. But I hope you all have enjoyed here this evening. for me, in the booth, this has been Spain. Lovely weather. And some fantastic racing as well. So I hope to see you all again next time for round 2. See you again this Friday.